my name is David and I'm responsible for our board game portfolio here in Albi. You may know our games Karak and Karak 2 and maybe a few others critically acclaimed titles such as The Two Heirs, Medieval Janžiška or Terra Futura. In Albi, we want to make games for everyone. Of course, we don't think that everyone will play the same game, but no matter your preferences, when you look at our catalog, you should be able to find a game just for you. That's our philosophy as a distributor in our core markets, but also as a publisher. And I think that today's showcase will show exactly what we mean by that. All the games I'm going to show you today are going to be released this year, and you should be able to check them in October at Essen Spiel at the latest. So without further ado, let's see what we've got planned for you for 2024. Karak is undoubtedly our most successful franchise we've introduced so far, and the launch of the second installment last year has proven us that there is still a lot of passionate fans of this family dungeon crawler series. And I'm really grateful for that. Big thanks to all of Karak fans out there. I think you'll be happy to hear that the first expansion of Karak 2 is coming this year, and it will bear the name Karak 2 Imperium. The Karak 2 expansion is called Imperium because the central novelty is that the fight against the Dark General requires one of the heroes to take on the difficult task of the Emperor. The role of the Emperor has its perks, like the powerful and immortal dice of the Emperor's Guard, or the fact that other players have to pay taxes to them. On the other hand, not all gold glitters. The Emperor is also in charge of developing the Empire, so every time they train new units or build a building, they have to train or build something for some other hero of their choice as well. Because only one can wear the crown, Karak 2 Imperium also implements player versus player combat. Any hero can attack the Emperor and try to steal their crown. In addition to this new game mode, the expansion also introduces 5 new heroes, 4 of which are old acquaintances from the first game and their expansions, and 1 hero is brand new, as well as several new landscape tiles and 2 new monster types. There will also be miniatures available for Imperium later after release, including 2 promo heroes, Victorious and Darius, that were distributed with a base game, in addition to 5 heroes from this expansion. Karak 2 Imperium will make its debut at Essen Spiel, and I hope you are all going to welcome the new heroes into the fight. But the expansion for Karak 2 isn't the only treat we have for Karak fans this year. There is also an expansion coming to its card game spin-off, Karak Goblin. The expansion, called Nexus, brings in 72 cards, but most importantly, 2 new game modes. The Power of the Lords mode upgrades the final duel with the Lord of all monsters to make the climax of a game as exciting as possible. Like players, the Lords now have their own decks of action cards and take turns in playing the cards. Each lord has a unique deck, each brings a new challenge, and you'll also find 2 brand new lords in the box with the game. The second mode, the eponymous Nexus, then completely changes the dynamic of the game, where instead of going through each floor, you're always selecting your opponents from the offer one at a time and resolving fights simultaneously. Heroes are not allowed to heal, and the goal is to be the last one to survive in the game. Nexus thus brings much more nimble and exciting gameplay, but also a greater influence of chance. In addition, Karak Goblin can be played in up to 5 players in this mode. In addition to new modes and rulers, you also find the 2 new heroes in the box. Karak Goblin Nexus is set to launch in late September, just before the Essen Spiel. One of the biggest titles we're releasing this year is ATOLL. It's also the winner of the first season of our reality show contest for board game designers. It's designed by Jan Štěpánek and illustrations has been made by Martina Láskova and Michal Peichl. You may know his work from the titles published by Delicious Games such as Messina, 1347, Woodcraft or Evacuation. ATOLL is a 2 to 4 player engine building game for about an hour to 90 minutes, and make sure you have plenty of table space. Your goal is to build the best possible ecosystem in which the population of fish and other creatures will thrive and which will attract new species. 2 types of square cards are the basis for a game, corals and the coral reef dwellers. You buy these from the offer and lay them out in front of you in a checkerboard where corals and other cards must always alternate, and different animals also have different requirements for coral capacity and may require more coral symbols to be adjacent to them, which needs to be kept in mind. There are several sources of victory points in ATOLL, but the most important one is the population on your animal cards. A central concern for you in managing ATOLL is a variable called fatigue. Whenever you use a special coral ability or increase the population on one of your cards, that card becomes fatigued. However, some cards allow you to remove fatigue from other cards and others allow you to increase population without fatigue, and finding this option can be your way to victory. Different animals require different conditions to increase their population. Some feed on another of the game's resources, plankton, others need to eat and therefore reduce the population of another type of animal, and some just need a little effort or a symbiotic relationship with another organism. Dozens of different corals and animals lead to a variety of combos and strategies you can employ. ATOLL, however, remains a relatively accessible game that moves along at a very pleasant pace. Come and see it in Essen when it releases. Dom, designed by Michal Peichl and illustrated by Veronika Mondrová, is a smaller card-driven game for 1 to 5 players of age 8 and older with playtime around half an hour. In this game, you become the matriarchs of a witch clan and your aim will be to find the promising new students that will learn recipes for potions, gather the necessary resources, and in the end will be able to brew said potion and thus join your clan as full-fledged members. In your turn, you'll be sending the witches from your hand to find resources, recipes, or even new witches in 3 different locations, or you'll be assigning your witches to brew potions using the ingredients other witches gathered beforehand. Timing and selecting right witches, recipes and resources is of the essence, because other players won't hesitate to gather points as fast as they can. Witchdom has really good tempo, and my honest opinion is that it also has a beautiful artwork and works well both as a filler and as a family game. Witchdom is set to release in late July, and you should be able to play it at BerlinCon as well as, of course, at Essen Spiel. Rail Line is a new game by Martin Doležal, who you may know as the author of Four Gardens, published by Korea Board Games. And even though it is thematically completely different this time, both games have something in common. It's maximum simplicity and brisk pace. Rail Line is designed for 2 to 3 players, aged 8 and up, with one game taking approximately 15 to 30 minutes. Each player becomes one of the railroad tycoons of the Industrial Revolution. Your tracks will slice through the landscape, steam trains puffing in their wake. In practice, it's very simple. Players play cards, with each card having 3 tracks that build on each other, crossing and intersecting in various ways. In your turn, you add a card and all players' trains move to the next station on that line. Each station type is scored differently. Many of them require you to visit another station of a different type first to score points. So you ideally try to focus on the stations that will give you the most points, while at the same time not overcharging your opponents if possible. Rail Line excel in gameplay that could be said to be almost zen-like. The trains peacefully swarm through the landscape and you just cash in the bonuses they bring you. The game is perfect as a calming filler after a particularly tense game of something more challenging, and you can also enjoy it with your kids. Rail Line is set to release in October, just in time for Essen Spiel. Nutventure is a children's game for 2 to 4 players of age 6 and up, with a game time of around 30 minutes by the debuting author Eliška Holubová and our very own Marek Výborný. It is based on the popular roll and move mechanism. I know what you're thinking right now, but be warned, in Nutventure you roll 3 movement dice, one of each color of the squares on a game board, and your goal is of course to find the route that gets you closest to your current destination. And what is that destination you have in mind? Your squirrels. So of course you need to find nuts. You have to find them, collect them and hide them for the winter. The catch is that there is a 4th die in the game that controls the movement of a pair of predators, an owl and a fox. And when a squirrel sees such an owl or fox, it gets so scared that it drops the nut and scurries for cover. Therefore, it is better to avoid them, perhaps even direct them to other squirrels. You've probably already noticed the 3D tree, and believe me, it's a real eye-catcher for children. The simple rules, combined with the need to carefully plan your own path, then make Nutventure a game that, while brisk and accessible, is certainly not stupid. Legion, a Siberian story, is a game designed and illustrated by a collective of authors led by David František Wagner and Martin Bláha. It depicts a historical event of perilous journey of Czechoslovak legions that were trapped in Russia after the Brest-Litevsk Treaty and need to journey all the way east to get home. Home that they've helped to liberate with their own blood. Legion is a 2 to 4 player game for ages 12 plus and with playtime over 60 minutes. Legion brings a unique experience that we describe as card building. Each of the players controls one of the warring factions. At the start of the game, your squad is full of fit and strong men and women, but it only takes a few rounds of fighting in freezing Siberia to turn them into frostbitten, wounded cripples, and even worse. In the game, you'll be using transparent cards to mark the new equipment, injuries, frostbites, etc. So you can see the story behind each of the soldiers' journey. It's up to you, as a commander, to cope with increasingly dire situations. For me personally, the game flourishes most in survival mode, which consists of 3 consecutive games and which shows in full nakedness the hardships of the journey of the legionnaires made over 100 years ago. Beyond this mini-campaign, we'll be bringing you a full-fledged story campaign available as a free download when the game is released, which will offer exciting new ways to enjoy the Legion to the fullest. Legion, a Siberian story, is set to launch in August. You should be able to try it at BerlinCon, and we certainly hope you give it a chance at Essen Spiel. Our biggest release this year, and in terms of complexity, the biggest game published by Albi so far, is Tea Garden. Behind it is none other than the comet of the Czech board game sky, Tomáš Holek. This is probably the first time that an author will be debuting in Essen with 3 big games from 3 different publishers, because Tomáš is not only behind Tea Garden, but also Galileo Galilei, published by the new studio Pink Troubadour, and SETI, a new ambitious title from the famous Czech Games edition. And that might not have been all, but it's not our place to talk about that right now. Back to the Tea Garden though. It is a medium difficulty Euro game for 2 to 4 players aged 12 and up, with a game time of around 90 minutes. It takes you on a journey back to early days of tea cultivation in ancient China. The basic gameplay mechanism is deck building, but is peppered with a number of other interesting mechanisms. With the help of cards, you will trigger actions such as harvesting tea, building tea gardens, learning new skills, or even selling tea to caravans. Cards can be combined with each other for added power, and the cards you play and in what order you play them in a round will also determine what other cards you can afford or what auxiliary actions you can use. However, what I would highlight above all is the management of the tea leaves themselves, which serve as one of the core concepts of the game. The leaves can vary in quality, but are mainly divided into fresh and fermented. And while the fresh ones lose quality at the end of each round, the fermented ones gain it. Of course, to turn the fresh ones into fermented ones, you have to perform the corresponding effect, so it's not free. Moreover, for many bonuses and many purposes, any leaves will do, but sometimes you need to offer the best quality tea. Tea Garden is one of those games that at first glance may seem more complicated than it actually is. Yes, it's full of possibilities and there are a number of paths to victory, but the basic gameplay loop is very accessible and the individual actions move along pleasantly quickly. Tea Garden, wonderfully illustrated by Barbara Žižková, will be released on 3rd of October, the very day the Essen Spiel begins. Come to check it. And that's all for this year's Made by Albi showcase. I sincerely hope that at least some of the titles are your cup of tea, because as I said at the beginning, we think that we have something for almost everyone. If you want to learn more about our games, Check them on BGG, on our website www.albi.eu or our Facebook page. Or come to see us in person at Berlincon, Essenspiel or PAX Unplugged. Until then, have fun and goodbye!